Here they come. Yay. Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever is appropriate, everybody. First, let's do the mandatory quick sound checks because I'm still getting all of this stuff straightened out. Can you hear me? Can you hear the music? And can you hear me over the music? Excellent. And Isaac, you'll notice I actually, you'll find out in a minute, but I've actually got Pretzel Rocks talking to my chat line now, so you guys will be able to see what music you're going to be hearing. So that was had a lot of fun on your stream, by the way, Isaac. That was an excellent couple hours. I enjoy following you. It kind of gets me amped up. Ah, there we go. There's Pretzel Rocks. Yeah, it was weird. I had to log out of them and then log back in with no uppercase letters in my Twitch name. Even though I have uppercase letters in my Twitch name, there's still some things I guess that care and some that don't. But I tried like 3 or 4 times and I finally tried it with all lowercase, and lo and behold, everything popped right in. So if anybody else happens to have a weird problem in getting Pretzel to talk to their chat, try getting rid of all your caps. All right, so let's get started. Yes, you're a very good warm-up act. Okay, how many people have seen at least one Let's Unpack the Prompts stream in the last 18 hours or so? I think I've seen 4. Well, you're going to see, not quite see another one, all right? What I've done, I've kind of to get set up for myself for the week and for the rest of summer camp. And for this stream, the first thing I always do is I run to the summer camp homepage and push all the buttons so that I get all of the prompts into my article list. And what you're looking at on the screen now, if you can read it, I'll tag each one of them. All right, so here we have the 10 Summer Camp 2 prompts. And what I'll do for each one of those is give it a temporary title to remind me what it is that it's supposed to be. Obviously, I can see what template it's using. And the other thing I do, just to show you one real quick, is, he said waiting for his screen to update. We're going to have one of those days, I think. I throw the full prompt text into the storyteller notes section. Eventually that will disappear, but it's there for as long as I need it. So what I'd like to start off doing today is actually kind of run through the 10 prompts and just do a quick summary of, or a quick look at what I'm thinking of doing for each of the 10. What I'm going to try to do after that, I have a pretty good idea of what I'm going to do for my vehicle. So I might be trying to hit that one unless somebody has a better suggestion somewhere along the way. I've already completed one of them, by the way. In fact, if you were on Isaac's stream about 5 minutes ago, you heard her read through my 3 days for the Seafarer. Thank you for reading through that. I do have a couple of edits that I need to make, as per your suggestion. You're absolutely right about a couple of run-on sentences there. I tend to do that a lot. But I'll get to that some other time. So what I want to do is kind of run through the other ones and just make sure I have at least a general idea of what I'm going to be doing, and then we'll get into one. So let's start right from the top. Organization above the law. What I'm thinking about doing for this one, and by the way, again, I'll throw my notes. I know, Isaac, you have a separate spreadsheet. Normally, I'm a big spreadsheet guy, but I find if there's a place to keep my notes right in the middle of what I'm working on, it's one less thing to have to keep popping back and forth to. So I make heavy use of this note section for temporary information like this. What I'm thinking of doing for this one, I have a city called Endmere. It is a very old city. It is a very large city. And it was originally part of a kingdom up until a few thousand years ago. And then there was a big global catastrophe and devastation. The kingdom kind of pulled back its borders significantly, leaving the few survivors in the city to kind of fend for themselves. Since then, the city has been rebuilt, but it is now a free city or a city-state or whatever you want to, however you want to think about that. And it is basically ruled by four let's call them families. All right. Think kind of like Renaissance Italy. There's several ruling families. They all hate each other, but they respect each other. So we're actually kind of getting back into that Godfather theme here again. Basically, the official, actual rulers of the city are well, the families end up putting the rulers into place, but at different times in history, different families will have the ruler as one of them. But when it is not a family's turn to be the law, they are still nevertheless pretty much above the law, because although these families hate each other, they out of respect for history, respect for tradition, and fear, they don't bother each other when it comes to, let's say, questionable activities and that sort of thing. So at any given time, three of these families essentially are above the law, while the fourth family is the law. So that's the kind of approach I'm going to take for this one. Unless I can come up with something much better between now and the time I get to it. So I throw that little note in there, and I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to go right back to my list. Biodiverse region. At first I thought this one was going to be very, very difficult because, first of all, I really didn't want to get into doing a different region than the one I'm focusing on for most of my work, not only for summer camp, but for the immediate real, work products that I'm trying to put together. But it occurred to me, especially after talking to a couple people back and forth in the Discord, that I can probably just make my local region more than fit this prompt. Because the area that I'm talking about. Oh, I don't want to be here. I want to be down here. Well, first of all, we have the ancient forest part. It is filled with fey creatures of all shapes and sizes. It is also filled with all of the typical and fauna of the climate here. It's not quite tropical. Just say tropical, a temperate subtropical forest. And over the years, especially leading up to that major global catastrophic event that happened 2,000 years ago, more than its share of baddies, you know, the kind of creatures. I'm doing a role-playing game, so quite a number of the type of creatures that my players will eventually be running into with swords drawn will also be living all over this forest. So I'm thinking, like I said, that there's plenty of diversity, and since this forest is one of the original, I think the world in my world is down to like 6 of them now. One of the 6 forest areas or you know, natural areas that have basically been, you know, what they are since the world was created. They're definitely the targets for, you know, for biodiverse area, and this one is actually the one that's probably been least messed up by civilization. It has been encroached by along the edges, and that encroachment has come and gone, but the core of the forest has been untouched for the entire life cycle of the planet. So I think that one's going to work for that. So we're going to save that idea. Devastating natural disaster. This one I've mentioned a couple times already in the last 2 minutes the global catastrophe that happened 2,000 odd years ago. That global catastrophe was essentially the result of all of the various gods finally raising their occasional skirmishes to the level of all-out war, where everybody kind of took sides, and there was, you know, basically 2 major groups of gods fighting each other. And of course, as these things happen, if the gods are fighting up in the heavens, then all of the followers and believers of those gods are fighting down on the world. And as a result, you know, there was much power and energy being spewed about all over, and, you know, whole regions of civilization were wiped out. There were a couple of, you know, major alterations to geography and climate. So I think somewhere in there, you know, I'll certainly be able to find something to write on this one. So I'm just going to use, for now as a note, the Great Strife, which is what I call that 100-year period or so of war. And to keep it local, there's an area just at the southern edge of that Feywood forest that I was talking about before. That I'm not going to bring up a map now, but basically the land narrows down. The forest is nestled between two mountain ranges. When I say nestled, I mean it still spans like 700 or 800 miles or 1,000 miles. But those two mountain ranges narrow down to a small neck. There's an isthmus that goes to a peninsula that before the strife was all lush and green and wonderful and night and that sort of thing. But now most of the land at the very, very bottom edge of what was the forest at the time and down across that isthmus and into the peninsula, that land was all blasted, and a lot of it now is just barren, rocky. I mean, not completely barren. You know, there's some scrub brush and grass growing and things. Just nature is just trying to get hold again now after 2,000 years. So I think that's the area I'm going to focus on. And I was going to try to come up with just a good word for or a good name for that region. The working title I have now is the blasted region, the wastes. I'll have to come up with a good name for it. But it's basically the area, like I said, that borders on my forest and that leads down onto this peninsula. By the way, there's a major dwarven city, or city under a mountain, down on that peninsula. But there's also a bunch of baddies and things that have kind of taken over down there. So it's definitely an area that suffered from the war 2,000 years ago and is just now starting to recover. So I think that's what I'm going to be working on when I get to that one. I'm not looking forward to doing this one. This one is going to be nasty for me. Although I haven't looked at the prompt to see exactly what's involved. There's not much involved in this prompt at all. All right, as far as the template. The way in which the natural or supernatural law manifests itself. Yeah, the template is a physical or metaphysical law template. So this is going to be one of those interesting ones where you have to kind of figure out how to, what I find useful is to look at the little hints at the bottom of each of the sections to see what it was they had in mind. Type, make your choice. Oh, it could be any of these. Probably metaphysical divine, but we'll see. This might end up being a prompt that gets written almost entirely in the vignette section. But we'll have to see how that works. So let's just save my notes on that one. Let's do a quick run back through the chat, see if anybody has said anything. Let's see. Good warm-up act. Secondhand Samurai. Isaac Tom is here all week. Try the veal. Yes, it's definitely good to have somebody else. The more people you can have put eyes on your articles, the better they're going to be. Eventually. Hello, Heel 18. How are you doing? By the way, I like just about every other streamer on World Anvil. I am trying to scrape and claw my way toward the affiliate level. So I would greatly appreciate if any of you folks that have not yet followed me, please make sure you throw a follow on the channel. When I get to 50, I promise dinosaur emotes for everybody. So Janet will like that. And WD Michael will like that too, although I don't think they're on right now. Okay. Yeah, there's some dinosaurs. There's some dinosaur problems. Yeah, I have my little dinosaur logo. You'll see up in the corner, and you'll see popping around. It's there on Discord as well. My brother-in-law or my son-in-law is a graphic artist, so he worked up that little guy for me, and I'm going to be telling him today that I need him to start thinking about a couple of Twitch emotes that'll kind of derive from that, and we'll see what we can come up with. Okay, we did biodiverse region, we did devastating natural disaster, old wives' tale conspiracy theory. I have no idea what I'm going to work on for that one, so I'm not even going to bring it up right now. I'm going to skip right past it. That's one that I have not given any thought to at all. I am almost certainly going to take the old wives' tale approach. And that's simply because, again, the area I'm working in is kind of like a frontier area. Civilized folk have only been moving into the elves have been here since time began, but and the Fae have been here since time began, but the rest of the civilized folk, while up until 2,000 years ago, there had been a fair amount of civilization and encroachment around the edge of the forest that actually pushed back the edges a bit. In the 2,000 years since, the forest kind of rebounded, and only now again are people starting to come into the area. There are a few hardy independent farmers. Think kind of the American West in the late 1800s. Except instead of prairie and mountains and deserts, we're talking forest. So, there are a few people moving in, and it's basically people who want to be on their own and want to be independent and are tired of, living, paying taxes and doing all that kind of stuff. So, I keep what I grow. There is of course some commerce. There are some towns and villages where the farmers will be selling their goods or whatever, but there's no major overseers. There's no taxation. There's none of that. So plenty of opportunity for old wives' tales, I think, especially in an area where you have folk like humans who haven't been in this area for 2,000 years, but are now, and it's an area again filled with fey creatures and spirits and things like that. Plenty of opportunity for old wives' tales. I just don't have the slightest idea which one I'm going to be, or what exactly I'm going to be working on. Sacred or culturally critical material. I'm doing RPG. All right. The first thing that came to mind when I heard this one, I'm doing an RPG world. The world has druids. Druids play around with things like holly leaves and mistletoe and stuff like that. So that was the very first thing that came to mind, and I'm going to leave that as my plan B or plan C simply because it's too much of a trope to just go for. So that's another one that I have to think about, I think, to come up with something interesting. There's a few others, of course, in the RPG world. Holy water is there, and that sort of thing. I'm open to suggestions, by the way. So if anybody has any interesting thoughts, let me know. Vehicle that brings joy. This is one that I have thought, I thought was going to be tough, but thanks to bouncing a few ideas back and forth with Songbird and Italia yesterday, I have a very good idea of what I'm going to do with this one. And in fact, this is probably the one. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to put it in a new tab. This is probably going to be the one, it's almost certainly going to be the one that after I finish going through the rest of this list, we're going to come back to and actually get started on. And what we're going to be working on is I need to come up with a catchy name for it, but basically, we're going to be talking about a wagon or carriage that brings a troupe of bards, minstrels, around a circuit that covers the region. They appear on a schedule twice a year, bringing latest news, new songs and tales. They will carry messages from distant family, that sort of thing. They stay 3 days in a village and then move on. I spent about an hour and a half last night with my maps, working out the actual circuit route that these guys are going to take, figuring out how long it would take them to do it, and what I was able to arrive at. It's basically an 1,800 mile loop, and at 20 miles a day, they can do the travel portion of that in 90 days. Allowing for the number of stops along the way, and like I said, about a 3-day stop for each one, maybe a little longer in the two big cities. They're basically going to be able to, as I say here, cover the circuit twice a year, and it actually still leaves them a little more than a 3-month period in which they can, kind of winter over in their home city, which will be which is the biggest of the settlements that they have on their circuit. So they get some home and family time, over the winter, and also that's time for them to accumulate news and stuff that from outside the region. So I have some pretty solid ideas on what I'm going to do with that. But the trick for this one is going to be figuring out how to use the vehicle template to tell the story I want to tell. But we'll get back to that shortly. Save that. Now I need to come back to my articles list because I didn't put it on a different tab. It would help if I spelled summer. I don't want summertime, I want summer camp too. Okay, that was vehicles. Now, of course, that changed the order of everything. The old wives' tales again. I said we skip sacred culture, critical material skip. Elite military unit. That dwarf holding I was talking about a few minutes ago. That's south of this region. One of my playtesters is coming from that area. And he wrote up his first character as a former military officer that retired and is now out, adventuring, seeking his fortune. And in the first couple of adventures, or the first major adventure that these guys played through, he kept barking out orders to the rest of the players. As if they were a military formation. Now, there's only 4 players in this group, so it's kind of comical for him to, when he starts yelling out, form a picket line on me. And there's only 3 other people involved, so you're not going to get any kind of military formations. There's an alchemist in the group, though, that is good at like lobbing fire bombs and things like that. He is referred to as artillery. And that gave me the inspiration to when I saw this prompt come up to basically define the artillery unit that the dwarven stronghold would have had. All right, and in this case, now we're not talking about just one or two alchemists. We're talking about a unit that has got engineers that have built catapults and other throwing machines, a number of alchemists that are providing the various kinds of bombs. This is a Pathfinder style, Pathfinder 2 derived world and rule set. So you've got fire bombs, you've got acid bombs, you've got frost bombs, you've got thunder bombs. You've got things called tanglefoot bags, which you throw them into an advancing party, and it literally twists and tangles and ties them up and that sort of thing. So picture like a whole run of catapults launching these things some distance at an approaching enemy. They might even have a few other kind of projectile devices that would be used. So I think that's what I'm going to be doing for this. And I'm just going to leave a note here that says Dwarven Artillery. With engineers, alchemists, etc. That'll tell me everything I need to know for that one. Secret code or cipher. This is another one I'm really not sure what I'm going to do. This one's tough again because the nature of the region I'm working on, doesn't really have any reason for any secret organizations or secret societies or anything like that. There's really nothing to spy on. It's a wilderness. It's a forested wilderness area. So I might take it back to that city that the four families are running and do something there. But I'm not really quite sure. The common item as a secret symbol, though, this one I do have a good idea on. And this is another one where I will be linking back to one of the articles that I did in the first set of summer camp prompts. My rank title article for the first round was for an honorific called simply Friend of the Fae, and this is a title or a status given to any of the non-elf, non-fae folk who have demonstrated that they care about the forest. They want to see the forest preserved pretty much as it is, and they're willing to help the things to kind of maintain the status quo. And that this doesn't mean they can't ever chop down a tree, but they're good to the land and they respect the land and that sort of thing. And being a friend of the Fae means that the Fae and the elves will recognize that this person, if they happen to be out in the wilderness, A, they're not a threat, and B, they're good guys. So if we know of some threat that this guy is walking into, we'll warn them and tell them and that sort of thing. So that's what the Friends of the Fae are, and what I was thinking of doing for the common item is to provide a symbol that the Fae and the elves can recognize, so that they could tell at a glance, hey, this guy is a friend of the Fae. And since it would need to be some sort of natural common item, what I was thinking of was something like a cloak clasp fashioned from an acorn. Or a pair of acorns. So, you know, one look at this guy, and he's got these, you know, something that's just going to look like a button, you know, that holds a cloak around your neck, you know, or a clasp, or, you know, buttons. Would in fact, you know, again, they're being made out of acorns, that would in fact tell people in the know, you know, hey, this guy is special, and he's one of us. So I'm seeing some things. Thinking of having blessed coins. Flipping them will tell you if you're in God's favor. Heal. That. Not only is that an interesting idea, but I just finished playing a D&D campaign where I was a cleric of Timora, who is a goddess of luck, and that's how I did stuff. First of all, I carried around a set of gold coins that I had minted myself. And whenever, like, somebody was nice to me, like even like a bartender that was, that I liked or whatever, whenever I left a place, I would leave a coin, and if I left it heads up, the coin actually had Timora's symbol. It was Timora's face on the head, and the back of her head on the back of the coin. So I could demonstrate my pleasure or displeasure with somebody by leaving the coin on a counter, either face up or face down. So I had a lot of fun playing with that. It put a little flavor in the role playing. Did I miss anything else in the chat? You guys are awfully quiet today. Is that because it's too early in the morning or too late at night? Too much coffee, not enough coffee? What's going on there, guys? Pretzel Rocks is the biggest talker in my chat. I know I talk a lot, don't leave a lot of room, but chat it up, guys. So anyway, I'm going to go with the cloak clasp. It may or may not have some sort of magical mark placed on it, just so that it can't be counterfeited. I'll have to think about that, but at least I have the general idea for that article. And that's really all I can care about at this point. So what does that leave me? Waiting for my screen to update again. There we go. So that was the common item. That leaves the secret code, the old wives' tale, and the cultural material. So all right, I have good ideas for 7 out of the 10, including the one that's finished already. People tend to be dead around this time. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I do know, it's a busy schedule today. Those of you who are interested, I know Laura Bones starts up at 11 o'clock, well, in 20 minutes. But I have an hour and 20 minutes to go. Laura's doing a 3-hour stream today. And Hefe is on the calendar for right after I'm finished. I've been raiding Hefe for the last 2 weeks, so today I'm going to raid Laura when I'm done. So just so anybody knows, if you're thinking about wanting to jump over to Laura's, stick with me for a while and you'll get to Laura eventually. At least that's my plan. So anyway, let's jump on to the vehicle that brings joy, and we'll see what we can actually make happen with this prompt. And I'll also show you now. I know a few of you have been on my prompts on my streams before, so you will have seen this exercise. But the very first thing I like to do is put some stuff into as many of the fields, unless it's a field that I am 100% absolutely certain is going to have no use or purpose for this particular article. The first thing I do is run through the whole template and just put stuff in the fields. And I do that so I can see how the article is going to end up looking when it gets displayed. So we know there's going to be something in the vignette, and in fact I'm going to preload some of the BB code that I use as a matter of style. I set up a section so that my vignette is basically one type font bigger than all of the rest of the article. It helps it stand out a little bit. And the other thing I do is I always start it with a drop cap. And I have sections defined for that. You know what, actually, well, yeah, we'll come back to that. I need another section close here, don't I? There we go. Class, make your choice, create a new article. This is going to create another, if I do this, it's going to create another vehicle. So here's the question. Do I want to create a stub for something called wagon or coach or carriage? Probably not right now, so I'm going to skip over this one for the moment. Nickname, we'll definitely put something in here. Right now I'm going to just put a place filler in here. This is not going to be the actual alternate name for the thing, but we'll throw Happy Wagon in there now just to have some text to see where it shows up. I'm guessing that's going to end up in the sidebar, but we'll find out. Designation, HMS, USS, and so forth. Clearly this is designed for, ships or space vehicles or that sort of thing. It's not going to apply to my wagon or carriage full of bards. So that one I'm definitely going to skip over. I'm definitely going to want a motto. All right, again, this is a placeholder. It's going to get changed to something real. These guys obviously are not a newspaper, but just little flashback way back in the late 70s when I was going to college. The New York Times, there was a big newspaper strike in New York City, and all of the print, and this is back in the days when print newspapers were a thing. All of the print newspapers had been out of production for weeks and weeks, and a bunch of guys that were affiliated with or offshoots from I think they were related to National Lampoon. They created a satire caricature of the New York Times, which and managed to just get it delivered to the newsstands all over downtown New York, just like a regular newspaper would be. And it was called not the New York Times, but it used exactly the same masthead as the Times. This was the time that Pope Paul, not John Paul, but Pope. Actually, it was right at the time that Pope John Paul was getting elected. And the headline article for the paper was Pope dies yet again. Pope John Paul selected in remarkable, in fast conclave or whatever. There were a bunch of other just really ridiculous articles, but they put out it was like an 18-page paper that had to sell hundreds of thousands of copies on the street in New York the morning it went out, simply because everybody grabbed it thinking, oh, look, the New York Times is back. Their masthead motto, for those who don't know the New York Times motto has forever been all the news that is fit to print. They bastardized that slightly to be all the news that fits, we print. So that's what I threw in here. I use that all the time. It's just a placeholder. So there's a little story, little history for everybody. Okay, manufacturer. Again, is anybody that's reading this article going to really care that Harry the carriage maker built the wagon that these guys are flying or are using? All right. I don't think so. So again, there's no way I'm going to create an article stub it's actually an organization that it's going to create. So yeah, I don't think I need to create the Dryad Falls Carriage Company or something like that. So I'm going to skip over that one. Owner, character, I may come back to this and designate the head of the bard troupe as the owner of the carriage. But for now, again, because this is one of those kind of prompts that actually makes me create the article. Well, you know what? Let's do it this way. Let's do this one just to have something in here. And we're just going to call it Head Bard of Traveling Troupe, whoever he happens to be. So we'll get back to that. Owning organization. Again, I don't need another organization for this. I could, instead of using the bard, this is an interesting thought. See, this is where you have to stop and think about what story you really want to tell, and how you're going to use the templates to tell it. All right. Obviously, for summer camp, we've been tasked or challenged to use the vehicle template for this story. But the reality is that at least in my opinion, for my idea, I'm not going to spend an article talking about what the wagon looked like. I will describe the wagon. I will make sure that it's clear that it's big enough to carry everybody that's traveling and all of their stuff. and all of that sort of stuff, but the article is really going to be about the bringing joy part, which means I'm going to be talking about the bards. I could, in theory, create an organization article to describe the bards in much greater detail, and if I weren't playing the summer camp challenge game, I probably would do that, because that's where the real story is. But this is summer camp, so I don't think I'm going to create this article now. I might at some point, if I really like these guys and if I decide they have a lasting place in my world, I may come back and chop a lot of what's in this article out and move it over to an organization article, and either retire this article completely or revert it back to an article that really is just about the wagon or the vehicle. Heel 18, your symbol gave me a fun idea. In summary, you reserve a teacup and you resave a teacup and tea bag. You have to drink tea from the cup made with the bag every morning. Doing so will color your lips in the eyes of the people you have the favor of. Betrayal will color them black for all to see. Well, that's interesting. That's pretty interesting tea. So anyway, I'm going to leave the organization blank now and just go with the head, with the head of the traveling troupe. I may replace the head of the traveling troupe with the whole traveling troupe. You know what? In fact, let's just prepare for that. We can always clean up too many article stubs later. So we'll set that up and we'll see how these things look. Then we come over to the properties section. Now, again, clearly this template was designed to describe the vehicle in excruciating detail. All right, how much did it cost? How rare is it? What are its dimensions? I mean, I can put stuff in these, but I have a feeling it's going to end up giving me a sidebar, that's full of stuff I really don't care about. So I'm going to just throw in some fillers now. And again, this is mainly so I can see what the article is going to look like when I'm done. How big would this carriage be? 15 feet? Probably not much more than about 5 or 6 feet wide. Height. I haven't decided whether this is going to look more like a covered wagon or a extended stagecoachy kind of vehicle. I think a lot of that is going to depend on how many bards are in the troupe and how comfortable they want to be on their trip. I think the coach approach would probably work better. Oh, that was an auto. Oh, that resave was autocorrect. Okay. If I went with the carriage approach, then it was probably going to stand about 8 to 10 feet, especially with baggage on the top. Weight, who knows? Speed, 20 miles per day. Complement crew. The bard troupe. Again, I haven't figured out how many that's going to be. Cargo and passenger capacity. The troupe and enough. Supplies. Now, most of their stops or their trips, the way the villages are marked out along the way, most of the time they're not going more than about 10 days or so on any stretch of road. So let's say they carry enough for 2 to 3 weeks to make sure they never run out. So that takes care of that. And then the last part, and here again is where we definitely worry about you can tell that this thing was designed to cover major vehicles and, I mean, real things like ships and spaceships and that sort of thing. Power generation. Hay and oats. Propulsion. It's either going to be 2 draft horses or 4. Haven't decided yet how many are going to be pulling this thing. Weapons and armament. Nothing mounted on the vehicle, but the bards can be deadly. Armor and defense, the bards. Communication tools and systems, the bards. Sensors, yeah, no, I'm not even going to fill that one in, even with a joke for now. Again, additional and auxiliary systems. And hangars and docked vessels. No, this we don't carry a subwagon on this guy. So I think I can safely say that I will not be using those sections. If I thought I might possibly be using them, I would put a little something in here right now. Because what I'm going to do with everything that we just did is just save what we've done. This is being slow today. Warrior Bard sounds scary. It's not that they're warriors as much as they're definitely able to take care of themselves. Okay, so here's what it's going to look like. I actually have to do 1 or 2 little bits in here. Obviously, I don't have enough of a vignette for the drop cap to really show up, but we can see that the only things that show up, and we can see the order they show up. Power generation, propulsion, weapons and armament, armor and defense, communication tools and systems. That's all that's in the main body. That's interesting. Everything else that we filled out ends up in the sidebar. So, again, how much of this are we going to really want? And they call it beam, which is definitely which is a nautical term. I might play some games with some of that. A lot of it's going to depend too on how the article balances out. But what this tells me, first of all, is that clearly most of this story is going to either end up in the vignette section. Well, it is going to end up in the vignette section. There's little to say about that. And the question is, how much of this other stuff do I really want in here? Now, what I might do, I mean, for example, power generation and propulsion sound silly when I'm talking about a horse-drawn carriage. So one of the other things that I could do is solve a lot of this problem. In fact, all of these titles don't really look appropriate. At least I don't think so. So one of the things that I'm probably going to do is since I know I'm going to be working in the vignette section, is set up an area with a header that will talk about the carriage, and another header that'll talk about the passengers. And we'll kind of leave it at that. And in the carriage, we'll take care of things like, where were they? They were all in the properties section. No, they were all in the systems section. We will take care of the fact that it's drawn by horses. We'll actually give it a, we will actually describe what the vehicle looks like. So we'll get rid of all of this weapons and armament stuff, and armor and defense stuff, and communication tools. So that's now actually all blanked out. Warrior bard sounds scary. Have you seen a trombone? All bards are warriors. Warriors. Okay, and if we refresh this now, we'll see that I'll have a couple of titles over in the main section where I can talk about the vehicle itself, and I can talk about the traveling troupe. I might want to throw in one more in there that just talks about the. I'll cover how they travel along the way. What I probably will do to deal with some of this, actually, you know what's going to be interesting? This is something else that it's always interesting to find out. Like I said, I like to know how the article is constructed. For those of you that may not have played with these things extensively, the sidebar has 4 areas that you can play with. There's an area above the sidebar. And anything you put here will appear above the panel that you have created. Likewise, sidebar bottom appears below the panel area. But then there's a panel top and a panel bottom, and sometimes the template will distribute all of those pieces that it puts in the sidebar between the top and bottom. And if it does, it gives you the ability to kind of rearrange stuff and readjust stuff. And the first thing I need to do is see whether or not this does that, and if so, how. Come on. Okay. All right, so we can see again. This is stuff that appears above the sidebar panel. Panel bottom is there. Where's the panel top? Okay, so it puts everything. I can't tell. It looks like it puts everything in the panel top section. All right, so all of this mess appears before I get to the panel bottom. So there's nothing in the panel bottom itself. Now that I know that, I could decide, for example, if instead of having a separate beam length, width, height, weight, that sort of thing, if I wanted to, I could come in here and set up key value pair for dimensions. And what did I say? 15 feet long by 6 feet wide by 8 feet high. just as an example of something we can do here. All right, so I can put that in here, and if I have that here, I now don't need length or beam or height. I might even go back and put weight in there eventually, but so you can see you actually have a fair amount of control over how you make these articles look. All right, so now the height, weight, the height, beam, and length are gone from here, but I have a dimensions down at the bottom, and it only takes up one little bit now. If I put it up at the top, it would appear at